Welcome to the Act Out Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Tomlin. Today's guest has the most difficult job in the world, a preschool teacher. Please welcome Nicole Gamboa. Roll the tape. You have the most difficult job on the planet, I would say, of being a preschool teacher.
Okay.
I say that from a little bit of personal experience.
Okay.
So whenever I was in college, like 18 to 22, I worked at a church recreation league. And so I would either referee or coach kids anywhere between like 4 and 8 years old.
Okay.
And so I remember my very first game refereeing 4-year-old soccer. All like wherever the ball is, that is where all of the kids are, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like the ball's on like one side of the field. I'm watching the kids play. I'm like, maybe I should turn around. And I look, and the goalie is not like behind me.
Not
I'm like,
being a goalie.
yeah. And so I'm like, wonder where he is. And I look back, and he was behind the net, pants fully down, peeing.
That's not surprising.
The funniest thing, I was 18 years old, never even touched a soccer ball in my life. And here I am like coaching kids soccer.
Pretending you know what you're doing.
Exactly. Like I'm just making up drills like,
Right.
hey, you have to try to head the ball in and this. The very last thing I was like, look, you have to try to score a goal and then do a crazy celebration dance. And one kid just immediately runs off to the sidelines and look over to the mom. The mom said, he just faked a nosebleed. Don't worry. I got this. I'm 18. I got
know what
this.
I'm doing. I'm 18. I know everything.
He was on the swing set, and I mean I'll never forget this. I sat on the swing next to him. I was like, "Hey, buddy, we're out there. We're about to finish up. Do you wanna go and try to score a goal?" No, coach, I better not. I don't want my nose to bleed again. He said, "No, I don't want my nose to bleed again." I was like, "Okay, bud. Well, I don't see any blood." And he looked at me like I was the biggest idiot that he had ever met.
You're not supposed to take that literally.
He said, that's because I used the proper technique.
Ooh. Well, and this is a 4-year-old?
He was 5.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still impressive.
Right. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm not going to be able to teach this kid anything.
Right.
Yes, I just
He's
went
going
off.
to be teaching you.
Right. So that is the only experience I've had. And so I can only imagine. That was like once a week, by the way, too.
Right.
Yeah, I can't imagine every day of the week having, how many kids are in your class? 11.
Yeah.
And what are the age ranges?
Well, they start the year, they're all 2. By the end of the year, most of them will be all 3. So you've got, the average is about 2.5. I have the older 2, so like 2.5, 3.
Is that like the age range that you've always kind of taught? Oh, okay.
No, actually, my preference is the 4 to 5-year-olds, and that's what I've taught typically in the past. But
what is it about that age group?
They can have conversations with you.
Okay.
They have kind of gotten over, generalized tantrums. They have more impulse control. They're very capable of doing a lot more, learning a lot more. I just, there's a lot to work with there, like just more avenues to go with them. Not to say that 2s and 3s don't, their avenues are just a little bit different. So the 2s and 3s, you have to kind of like reteach yourself how to teach that's more developmentally appropriate for that age. And their development is very fast. So when they're learning one thing and you just get adjusted to that, they're on to the next thing. I mean, by the week, you can see a difference in a week. So, I mean, we don't make like concrete plans based off their behavior because really it's always evolving. It's ever evolving. In that sense, I really do like that because they're just sponges. They're just absorbing everything around them and just learning how to be like little people, like actual people, not just, helpless, little babies that just need, constant attention and care. Which is great. I love that. I love
Right.
that. But I love seeing this stage of development as well. It's been fun.
How long have you been teaching preschool?
I have been teaching preschool since 2004.
Oh, wow.
I was started as a camp counselor for a couple years, and then I went on to my temple. I became a preschool assistant, and that was 3s, 4s, and 5s, so kind of a blend. And that was just once a week on Sunday mornings. And then I became a lead teacher on Sunday mornings. Then I nannied for several years, and that was a really great opportunity because nannying I had from newborn all the way to age 8. So I really got a really great experience with the families that I had to. And then I went into the actual preschool realm, and that was in 2015. So over a decade. Yeah, in the preschool, but in whole childcare and child development since 2005, 2004.
What have you noticed between like when you first started to now? Have the kids overall kind of changed? Like, have you noticed any like behavioral changes, like as a trend, or the kids pretty much always been the same?
I mean, they're the same in respect to their development, where they should be. But as far as like interests go, I think that's just, what their generation is. So I do notice, there's a lot of kids that tend to be more focused on like screen time, and they're very engaged with that. It really depends on what their home life is. And, we kind of only get a small glimpse of that with whatever the parents provide. So it's kind of tough to really see that in a preschool setting because we don't really have a lot of screen time. We'll do like music and movement activities, but we're not giving them tablets. There's not like TVs in the room or anything like that. So that's kind of I don't really have a direct answer to that. Yeah.
So, and of course I am, almost 40. So this was 40 years ago, but whenever I was Camden's age, feelings and emotions were like not a thing. Like you weren't allowed to have like temper tantrums or things like that.
Right.
Has that changed? Like how kids are kind of handle their emotions? Has that gotten better over time, or is that?
It's changed. I don't know if that's better or worse. I think it's just a change. Seeing we're like pretty much almost the same age, I do feel when we were younger, emotions and feelings were not really focused on and they weren't catered to. Now I feel like there's a lot of, we're kind of stepping around that and being very gentle with kids, which I think to an extent is great, but I think we're kind of surpassing that. And now we're like almost in a way like coddling our kids and not, preparing them to handle their own emotions as they grow up. And I think we can probably see that in the news, like these kids that are in graduating high school and going into college, they still have their parents managing everything or the majority of their things for them. Obviously not everyone, but it's enough to where we're seeing that, which is, I would say that's a concern given, I have a 4 and a 7-year-old. I definitely want them to be capable and self-sufficient when they're at that age.
I think that you're absolutely right. So what I've noticed, gentle parenting gets a bad rap because most people misunderstand what it is. People think gentle parenting is coddling and you're just basically bending over and making sure that
spoon feeding.
That's not gentle parenting. Gentle parenting is actually the most difficult thing that I have ever done. There's boundaries. You have to teach. First of all, you have to be connected with with the kid in the first place. But,
That's probably essential.
That's number one. But connection, and then like validating feelings. Like, hey, it's okay that you feel this way for whatever reason, but then enforce the boundary. But we still have to blah, blah, blah. And I think that a lot of times people forget that the gentle parenting has that boundary part at the end. And so if you just do the first two things, you are not building a resilient kid.
Right.
You-
And you have to be consistent with it too. Like if you just do it however you feel like, and you don't have that consistency, kids, they know more than you think, and they manipulate and they take cues very well. They're very, perceptive of everything.
Yes.
So they're going to know if you're not consistent with something. They know how they can, jump hurdles and all of those things.
It's scary to see it sometimes. Yeah, exactly. How difficult is it for you to be able, because I mean, especially you have, I'm sorry, how
11
many kids? 11 kids. So you have 11 kids that you kind of have to be able to co-regulate. Especially at that age, right? Because kids can't regulate themselves until they're about 7 or 8.
Some not till adults.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I couldn't.
Right.
I didn't even know that like regulation was like thing, or that you were supposed to be like connected to your like feelings and that they were telling you anything until like a couple of years ago. So I'm trying to make sure that, Camden kind of has it earlier on down. But do you find it difficult for yourself where you need to kind of be that steady, stable, like source of connection and safety for so many kids for so long?
I don't find it difficult. In fact, I find it pretty smooth sailing. You definitely have to know that is your calling. I don't know anyone that goes into the childcare realm and doing that because they're forced upon or anything. Like a teacher is a teacher, and assistants are assistants. Anyone that's in that, they're not in it so much for the money, because that's completely different. They're in it because that is just kind of their affinity is children, and guiding them and teaching them, not just academics, but just how to be a person in the real world, and just having basic life skills. And, taking those tools in their, educational career and just building on that, until they reach a plateau, they graduate. You hope that they go to a trade school or a college and, they're successful in life. And that starts when they're really young. So to me, it's not really difficult at all. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's like good days and bad days. And I think that's just just the bump and grind of everyday work. But to me, it's just fun and rewarding. I don't see it as a difficult task.
I was literally just about to say, I could hear the like passion in your voice whenever you're saying like, if you don't love this, you're not
right. Well, don't do it. Right. Absolutely, you shouldn't be forced to. I mean, you shouldn't be forced into a career that you shouldn't. That you don't like.
How did you know that teaching was your thing?
I don't know. I've always loved children. I remember my grandparents raised me, and I just remember I always loved babies, even when I was little. And my grandma would always like reiterate to me, like, when you were young, you just love everyone that was so little. And I was very maternal, and I just loved engaging with little kids. And as I got older, I still loved babies. I had my family is pretty small, and so my immediate family, we had my little cousin. Well, she's in her 30s now. But when she was born, I was 9 years old, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And she lived in Pennsylvania, but anytime our families got together, she was mine. Like she was attached at my hip. I felt like a kangaroo mom with little Joey. And just, once I was a camper and I wanted to be like a camp counselor, I was a CIT for a couple of years, counselor in training.
Oh, okay.
So counselor in training, I mean, I feel like it kind of just was just this subtle growth, really, you could say. Just it started at a very young age. And I just decided when, I was a camp counselor, that was so fun that I really wanted to do something, in the early childhood education field. At that point, I didn't quite know what, but I knew something. So, in the meantime, I had gotten married. I did clerical work at a law firm, and that was a lot of fun. I absolutely loved that.
What type of law was it?
Debt collection.
Oh.
No, I did a lot of like scanning of like affidavits and garnishments. I learned a lot. It was very beneficial. I learned a lot of like computer skills that helped me today. And then I became a nanny. And and was babysitting all the time. And it was just so much fun and enjoyable. I loved teaching with them and taking them places and just, giving them experiences really. And just taking care of them, like poopy diapers, no problem. Like whatever, sick. Okay. If I get sick, I get sick. But, just, and helping the parents. Cause, when you have a nanny, you typically are very career oriented and you need that extra set of hands. It's almost kind of like another co-parent, really.
Oh yeah. Very much so.
And they fill in when parents are working. And so I would help do their kids' laundry. I would empty the dishwasher. I have noticed just little things to help them out. And they really become like family friends. So, I'm still in contact with both of the families that I have. We are very open communication.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't see each other a lot because we're not in the same areas anymore. But that was a lot of fun. But as a career, nannying is kind of precarious because you don't have like benefits. And eventually there comes a point where the parents, they don't need a nanny anymore. Your kids are older now. You don't need someone around the clock. You might need someone just, like as an afternoon babysitter.
Yeah.
And, for me, obviously I needed like full-time stability. Eventually, I needed benefits and things like that. So that's when I decided, hey, I want to stay in the early childhood educational field, but I've got to find something that's more stable and has benefits attached to them too. So preschool it was.
Well, I mean, it seems like you really lucked out though, because you're doing something that you love.
Yes,
and it seems like you feel fulfilled in your
I do.
professional
I absolutely love it. I'm still working at my temple, like doing the Sunday thing, and I also tutor Hebrew to fourth graders.
Okay.
And that takes a significant part of the work week too in the afternoons because I've got 14 kids that I'm tutoring.
Oh wow.
So,
yeah, okay. I could imagine that.
So no, I've got
what is that
big
like?
range.
I'm sorry, didn't mean
No,
to
you're
interrupt
fine.
you.
Go for it.
What is that like for you? So you are hanging out with 2.5-year-olds and then 15 minutes later you're hanging out with middle school or I'm sorry, what?
Fourth graders.
Yeah, fourth graders.
It kind of reminds me of a ping pong match, like just going back and forth, but sometimes the ball falls off the table and it's all over the place. So I start with my own children who are 4 and 7, then I go to the 2s and the 3s, and then I get a little, I wouldn't say a break, it's not really a break, but I get some time to decompress with Maya back at home. Then I get the 7-year-old, I deal with 7-year-old things and 4-year-old things, and then fourth grade, as far as tutoring goes, they are great. They're definitely, that's an age where there's a lot of sass and snarkiness coming out, not necessarily in a bad way.
Yeah.
Kind of entertaining because I'm not their 5-day-a-week teacher, so I can't speak on behalf of, their general education. Right. But for tutoring, it's been pretty fun. I like the fourth graders. They're entertaining and they're smart and capable.
It seems like your day is so busy and so devoted to other people. When do you have time for yourself?
That's a really great question. And, it's not over. Then I have my own kiddos that I put to sleep again, and then I wake up with them. So finding time for myself is not quite easy. And, my husband, Lester, he works like 6 in the morning and comes home at about 4 p.m. So he'll take the girls when I'm teaching Hebrew and I'm tutoring, and it's great because I'm in my own home, I'm in comfortable clothes, I'm on my laptop. So in a way, I am thankful for that time that I'm teaching because I do feel very relaxed, but I'm still working.
Right.
So it's a good balance though. So in a way, that time is actually a great decompression time for me. But, it's kind of with strings attached.
Right, exactly.
So usually I'll find time to myself. I'll ask Lester to take the girls to your parents' house for a few hours. And so I can get some time to myself. There's strings attached to that too. Sometimes they spend the night at their aunt's house. So that'll be a good window of opportunity. But there's nothing like set in stone, motherhood and, having a full-time job and with children. You don't really have like guaranteed time to yourself. You just kind of find it when the opportunity presents itself. Or you intentionally make it like, hey,
Yeah.
I want to do this like with my girls. Let's say I have a friend and they want to go to dinner. Hey, Lester, I need you to stay with the girls. I'm going to dinner. I think that's hard though, because there's a stigma that dads are babysitters. Like, oh, you're going to be with daddy. He's going to watch you. And I get it. It's hard not to break that. It really is.
Earlier in a previous episode, I was talking to one of our friends, and we had said something like, "Oh yeah, we're going to have to babysit." But it was like we were going to have all the kids together, so it was a little bit more of a babysitting thing. But even then, though, like I caught myself, and I was like, I hate calling it babysitting. If mom does it, it's just mom being mom,
Right.
But in a way, it's almost like for dads at least, it's like bowling with the gutter guards.
Right.
As long as I'm just hanging out with Camden, I'm like the best dad in the world.
Right.
Whereas Kaylin can do everything by the book, and there's still going to be comments like, well, that was actually the wrong book. She should have done something else.
Right.
And so there's a big double standard.
There is, and it kind of puts a double duty role on moms. And I think a lot of that just is very generational, when the American dream, dad was working, mom stayed home, mom did it all. She kept the house clean. She put the food on the table. She, did everything domestic.
Yeah.
And, I totally support that. And I think that women should definitely have that option too. Unfortunately, in today's climate, that's not really feasible for a lot of families, including myself. If depending on what your lifestyle is, we need two working parents to keep the lifestyle that we have.
Right.
That plain and simple. So I think it's very it's catered and tailored to what your family needs.
Yeah.
If you can make it work to where mom can stay home and you can live on one budget, then I think that's great. Like we did it temporarily when I was a stay-at-home mom with Maya. So, I mean, I get it and I have that experience, but there's definitely a lot on a mom's plate.
So I think that in a way, it seems like the culture hasn't caught up with the times, where you're absolutely right. It is very impractical for most families to have just a stay-at-home mom and dad go work. That is probably not feasible for most people. But there's also this thing, though, where mom is still going to be responsible for all of those things as if she is the stay-at-home mom as well.
And I think a lot of that has to do with this big feminine movement that was in the early 2010s. And don't get me wrong, I am a feminist. I am all pro-woman, pro-equal to men and women. But I think it was very overplayed and it held this higher standard to women that we can do anything. Sure, we can absolutely work and do this.
The girl boss kind
yes,
of
exactly.
thing. Okay.
And I think that excitement, I guess, if you will, is slightly detrimental because, well, now that we have that general attitude with feminism, okay, well, now you can do it all. Great, you can be a career, you can play mom, you're the jack of all trades, you can do it all. And so now that's where we are. And I think if we just kind of simmered back a little bit, and if someone wants to be a stay-at-home mom, like I don't feel that anyone should be attacked. But I also feel like if you are very career-oriented and you want to be entrepreneurial and, and be that mom and do everything, and that is what you feel like you're capable of, I'm also supportive of that too. I wish there was a balance of it. It's either one way or the other way.
Right.
It's like, can we just have a little bit of both?
I had not thought about the current climate as it relates to the expectations of moms. on the early 2010s, like kind of the girl boss movement, until you said that. That is so interesting, though. And I absolutely think that you're right, though.
Yeah, it definitely had a role. I'm not saying that is the complete source of it, but it definitely helped.
But there was that image, though,
where we are today.
Absolutely, where you were gonna do it all. And I think at the time it was sort of a celebrate thing, like of course, like yes, like women are women are strong, women are capable, but yet yes, women are strong and they are capable, but that doesn't mean therefore they have to do everything.
Right. And if they want to stay home and be completely domesticated, then that's okay too. But I think feminists, and even like myself, they want everyone to know that women are not just meant to be at home, I guess being submissive to their husband or whatever that stereotype was or role in the, the 40s, 50s, 60s, however long that was, they wanted to break that. And I can totally see that. Like women should not be categorized into one place.
Right.
They should be able to have opportunities as much as men do. But I think, it just kind of dissects into so many different like subcategories that, that I can't get into all of that. But generally speaking, I definitely think it has to do with feminism.
I grew up in a more patriarchal and more hierarchical society.
Okay.
And there were clear places of where you were expected to be and like what your role was supposed to be. And there was no room for like you being able to do anything else.
Yeah.
I think that's where my fear comes from with being like with stay-at-home moms. I think my fear is that there isn't a free and total choice.
Right.
If you're informed and you're like, this is what I want to do with all my heart, absolutely. Right. But I worry that, especially in areas where there's kind of there is that view where I'm afraid that choice isn't always free and voluntary. I guess that's my that would be my biggest concern. But that's just because I grew up in
and I get it's all based on your experience too and your upbringing. So I would have to agree with that.
We were kind of talking a little earlier about like what you do to decompress and stuff. And decompress. Yes, right. Well, how do you have like a community of girlfriend or friends around the area that you can?
Yes. Yes. Social media too. Okay. Like because we're not always getting together. Obviously, we just the opportunity to get together is just not always there. So there's lots of texting, lots of group chats. So yes, in fact, I just got together with a friend this past weekend. We went to lunch, kid free, like our minds could focus in one singular direction.
Oh my goodness.
And it was really nice. Yeah. It was really nice. It was almost therapeutic in a way because, but I don't even really remember before kids, but that's what it was like before kids. Like you just could focus on one thing at a time and your brain wasn't just like, there weren't all these different departments, So I think for moms is you have to be intentional and you have to make time for yourself. Yes. And you have to advocate for yourself because if you don't, then you won't get that time. You can't rely on anyone else to say, hey, I think you need a break. You can't rely on other people for your own mental health and your own self-care, really. Right. You have to make that for yourself. You can't have any expectations of anyone else to give you those opportunities. You just have to make it.
Yeah. Yeah. How hard was it for you to kind of build a little community of like of friends that you could text and have like kind of closer relationships with?
I didn't really put a lot of effort or thought into it. I'm the type of person that kind of like, if the circumstances kind of present themselves, I go with it. I don't really go out of my way to force things
Just
that
a
aren't
naturally
there.
magnetic and charming person.
Oh,
Like friends just
totally.
flock
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
yeah.
So many friends now. I have some lifelong friends who, we're not, in close contact anymore, but, we keep in touch. But as far as just like regular, close friends, I would say, I have just a few, and that's really all I need. I'm not in a point in my life where I just want casual
Right.
friends. Right. So I mean, I have friends for every different things. It's all communal. I have friends in the Jewish community. I have friends in Maya's preschool community. I have friends from Margot's school community. And then I have family friends. So I mean, there's kind of like people from all over, and some of us are in circles, where we all come together, and some are just, this is my friend, you don't know them, but
Yeah.
things like that. So, I mean, it just really depends on what your interests are, what your hobbies are, what you want to do, what you have in common with everyone, and you just kind of find your person to fit. It's kind of like a puzzle piece. For all your interests, you find that match for whatever and if you have a person that completes your whole puzzle, then that is a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Definitely. So,
Generally speaking, I hate generalizations, but
but
that being said, it seems like us, in a stereotypical sense, it is women have more connections, more kind of like the friend group kind of thing than men typically do.
Right.
Do you know why? Like, what do you think that
I
would be?
think women are more social. I think men tend to be more mechanically inclined, meaning they like to toy, tinker, fix, repair, build. That kind of might that might be a generalization, and I might be going on a stereotype.
Well, no, but you're right though. That
Uh,
I was just thinking, wow, I
I
don't like
feel
any of it.
men are more inclined to do those things than women. I'm not saying there aren't women engineers and women who like to
Right.
do those things. I'm just saying I think there's more focus on men doing that naturally than women. Women tend to naturally just want to socialize more and, create, close relationships with people. And I think that's kind of our drive
Yeah.
is we need people, and men need people too, but they also need something
Right.
like fidgeting, really,
Yeah.
like a fidget toy or
Well,
something.
exactly. Well, what you were saying, like men like to build, tinker, all these things. Whenever you think about those activities, those are single person activities. Like I am doing that on my own. Whereas you're talking about for women like to socialize and to like build connections in that way.
Right.
So it's a completely different
building
mindset. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of that is environmental, but a lot of that is just biological too. I think that's just how we're molded to be. So we are not balanced as far as girl to boy ratio in our class. We have a lot more boys, but you can see that the girls are more partial to playing in the kitchen. They like to go straight for the ponies and baby dolls. They like to do a lot of coloring, but they also do like to go to, let's say, building blocks and putting puzzles together. But typically that's not where they gravitate to first. So you can see, and there's plenty of studies that are out there that show like just how, female and male, they just naturally just see where they go. That's kind of just how it goes. Women were maternal for a reason. Dads are not maternal. They can be, but dads have to really work for that.
Oh yeah.
To be maternal because it's not instinctive, you guys, and it's probably a challenge because we're, as mothers, we're kind of setting a high bar for you guys because you really have to earn your child's love and your child's trust more than I feel that a mother does, especially if a baby is breastfed, moms and their babies have this more natural symbiotic relationship with each other. So I don't, to me, just fatherhood seems like, it's something that requires more of a self-introspection, if you will. Like, you really have to like teach yourself and you have to think about what you're doing.
It is the, like, I have to have the least amount of ego to be able to be a good dad. Like, I would say that the level of my ego is inversely correlated with my level of parenting.
Right.
And I noticed that before, where Kaylin is the primary parent. Like, we spend the same amount of time with him, but if he falls and gets hurt, he runs to mom.
Right.
The very first time that he rejected me, and it was like, mom, he had fallen, and like, I was like, oh, buddy, and I was going to pick him up, and he's like, no, mom.
Right.
That was
hurts.
devastating.
Yeah.
For a couple of minutes, and then I kind of like sat back on it, and actually it made me kind of feel good as a dad, though, and in a weird sense, where he felt safe enough in that moment to be like, I don't want you, dude.
I know who I need.
Yeah, I need mom. Like, so even like in that kind of like, I didn't like, that was a little bit of a loss.
Right.
And not really. Like, that shows me that I have enough of a connection with him where he feels safe enough to tell me, like, I don't want you right now. Right. And so I'm trying to find the wins and the little things, you know?
And I think that's hard. Obviously I can't speak personally to that, but I think my husband, Lester, finding that balance. I think at first, having two little girls, they're with me all the time. He's working, I'm being the primary caregiver and parent. So when it is time, for Lester to be a dad, he really has to work out of his normal self, really. And I think when the girls started, favoring me in many situations, I was like, how can I change this? And I think my approach was really off, because I'm like, well, your dad is right there too. Can't you go, like, can you go to daddy? And almost like this, having this overwhelming responsibility of I've got to be my kid's chauffeur, my kid's chef, my kid's chef, kid's doctor, kid's psychologist. I'm my kid's
nanny,
psychiatrist. I'm my kid's like a life coach. I'm like, where can my husband come in to kind of like fill these other voids or, take up? And I just, between both of us, it was one of those, you kind of just have to figure it out on your own type situations with whatever cards that you're dealt. And I think we're still figuring it out as they grow and we figure out what their needs are emotionally and mentally. But right now I feel like we've kind of reached a good point.
Yeah.
The girls they just come to me. They love Lester dearly and they love doing certain things with him and bonding in different ways. But when it comes to things like, being hurt or anything that involves feelings, I make myself very emotionally available.
Yeah.
Very emotionally available. And I try to help. I'm making leaps and bounds. I want them to experience their feelings. I'm not trying to, kind of like, subdue them or anything. But I definitely feel like I'm their like psychologist in that respect.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. With Camden, my main way of bonding with him, especially like earlier on as he was younger, was with roughhousing, kind of like wrestling. Was Lester able to like have that kind of bonding with the girls, or how would he bond? Because I imagine it'd be a little different with sons and daughters.
He really had to figure out
Yeah.
what the interests of the girls are, and I think that's the thing where you have to put your own interests aside and be fully invested in your child, and I think that's the first hurdle, is
Mhm.
you have to separate yourself, your own self-interests from theirs. You have to be engrossed in what theirs doing
Yep.
in there, and even for me, that is still a challenge,
Oh,
like, just
yeah.
trying to be my own individual
Mhm.
and trying to separate that from what their interest is, that's an everyday struggle for
Mhm.
me, and I think that's just how it goes. I think I'm learning as a mother and maybe just in general parenthood that that's just an everyday
I was about to
challenge.
say, I think that's a parenthood
Um,
thing, and the fact that you are aware of that
yeah.
speaks kind of
It's
vol
tough. There are tough days where I'm like, "I have to take care of you girls, but I'm also need to take care of me, and
Mhm.
I'm going to have,
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna have, like, a mental breakdown in my head." So,
Mhm.
when I feel like I'm just overwhelmed and just pushed to the edge, if Lester's there, I just say, "Hey, I need to go upstairs for a few minutes, or
Mhm.
let me just reset myself and come back to the present."
Yeah.
So for Lester, I feel like Lester's really into biking and fixing bikes and building bikes. So he's kind of find a good spot with the girls and
Mhm.
he likes to do a lot of outside things with them. And introducing them to different types of music that he really likes to listen to. We take them to concerts. I mean, we like to bike. They're kind of like adverse to wanting to ride bikes. They're just very resistant. So we're
Yeah.
trying to get over that hurdle. But they have their own little relationships going on, and I try to just kind of sit back and watch
Yeah.
because I tend to be a person that wants to fix everything and make things better. I just have like I process
Yeah.
everything very quickly, and sometimes I feel I have the foresight to know what's going to happen,
Mhm.
and I wanna fix it before
Right.
if something bad happens or,
Yeah.
or make something better. And so sometimes I realize that I'm overstepping my boundaries and I just have to sit back and just whatever they're doing, just let it be. So motherhood, you put your own high standards on
Mhm.
yourself too. It's not just societal. You put
Oh,
your
yeah.
own standards on yourself. Most moms are really tough on themselves. And so finding the motivation and kind of like an epiphany to, "Hey, they're okay, just
Mhm.
let it be what it is." That's hard to do. It's hard to relax. Really, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's hard to relax.
I think no, I don't think. I know. For me personally, the most difficult aspect of parenting is learning to parent myself
Mhm,
as I am also trying to parent Camden.
mhm.
That is very, very difficult. And it's the main thing why I am very concerned about, like how I like show up with Camden is that I realize that my voice is going to become his inner voice.
Right, right.
And so whenever I get dysregulated and if I like lose my temper, if I say something like, "Oh, Adam, you're the biggest idiot. You're so dumb, blah, blah, blah." If Camden
Oh.
hears that,
Oh boy, I know, I'm getting anxiety from you just
right.
saying that, right.
And like that's what he's
Yeah.
going to be telling
Mhm.
himself.
Exactly.
And so trying to be like show more like grace and compassion myself
Right.
and also showing it to Camden at the same time is very, very difficult.
Oh, it's a juggling act, and I am completely on board with you. I feel the same way. I am always critiquing myself and, kind of not second guessing, but just, kind of like having flashbacks and just having some moments of reflection was did I raise my voice? Things
Mhm.
like that. And I do realize that I have a very gentle but firm way of parenting.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'm too firm and I need to relax. I can be a tense person. I have a lot of tension and I've had that way before parenthood. I'm very aware of it. So it's just like, it's really just an everyday, I wouldn't say struggle or battle, but
Mhm.
challenge to find how can I make this a little bit better? I can't eradicate all of my faults and vices and all of these things, but I can improve them and make them better. And if I can do that, then that's great. I think you just have to be self-aware of who you are as a person, and that can be hard because you have to be person in different roles. A parent, you're a worker, a colleague, a friend, a daughter, a caregiver. I mean, you're all these things. You just have to kind of think about what your role is at that moment and how can I make it better? Or maybe you don't need to make it better, but, or how can I make this run smoother? Just there's a lot of self-reflection and a lot of self-thought, at least for me.
Oh, well, if there wasn't, I think that would be saying a lot more than the fact, I'm sure it's not particularly great for your like mental health overall if you're constantly like, oh my gosh, I did this wrong, but it does show that you are that you are trying to get better.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm, everyone has everyone's mental state is different, and I am aware with what is going on in my head and what I need to do or what approach I should have to better myself. The whole goal is to better yourself. That's really, and how can I be a better person? So the little people that we're molding, that we want them to be better than ourselves, how do we do that? How do we do that? It's a very vague question that doesn't have a straight answer. I feel like anytime someone says mental illness or some sort of mental diagnosis, there's a very bad stigma that means you're psycho or you're crazy or you're mentally unstable. I think being aware of where you are mentally is a good step. And if you're not, figuring out what the right steps are to do that with. So absolutely therapy or, just having a therapist, or if you're going through a particular, monumental shift in life and you need just a therapist for that period of time, do it. Like they're there for a reason. If you need a medication, I know everyone feels differently about being prescribed medication, but I am a proponent of, be cautious of what you're taking, but it's also there for a reason.
Right.
Like, don't make yourself suffer if there's something available to you. If you need to do your own research and whatever makes you feel better to kind of discern what works best for you, that everyone's different, but there's medications. If it's something that has a diagnosis and your doctor obviously feels, I'm not saying, don't go get some pills from on the streets or something, like from a medical professional.
Yeah, that is not act out advice. No. Please do not take recreational drugs from the street.
No, and not, if that is what you need, then I don't oppose to that. If you need the medication, take it. If you need a therapist, take it.
Yeah. Different types of ADHD. There is ADHD inattentive, ADHD inattentive, and there's the ADHD and it seems like for boys have the hyperactivity.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. That's the boys tend to be more hyperactive, and the symptoms are kind of externalized in a sense where you're seeing them like run around, and also to a certain extent that's just being a boy as well. But for girls, predominantly, the ADHD is like more inattentive, and so oftentimes I think there's a lot of women that have spent most of their lives, just kind of feel a little different, and then it turns out like, oh, I was diagnosed with ADHD a couple of
and
months
a lot
ago.
of people will go undiagnosed, or they'll self-diagnose themselves. So,
I'm self-diagnosed 1,000 different things. I went on WebMD once, and I like somehow convinced myself I had ovarian cancer or something. So it was
wow. You're breaking molds here. Yeah, that's like when I'm cautious when I say do your research. You have to go through reputable sources.
Right.
Like if you're going to, I don't know, an anti-vaccine website to get all of your to get all of your information just to feed what you're already believing, well then it's just
Mhm.
you're perpetuating what you just want validated. But
Mhm.
if you kind of go, I don't know, based off of studies and just more like scientific based evidence, I feel like you have a better opportunity to kind of figure out what's going on. Not
100%
one
concur.
side, not one side. Go right in the middle where you can see both and compare and contrast. That's, you make a hypothesis. It's like going back to
Yeah.
science in middle and elementary school. You make a hypothesis, you do your research, you come back after your experiment, and you have a conclusion.
Mhm.
Like you never knew that would be a life skill, but that what you learned in science is what you kind of have to do as you grow up too.
It's amazing. I'm sorry. I heard, and I'm going to completely steal this. Someone called it me search versus research.
You said me search?
Me search, where you're validating your feelings.
Right.
Like I'm going to Google whatever it is, and then the first thing that I see that like
Right.
affirms what I thought. Yep, that's it.
Right.
That's me search. Research is what you're talking
Right.
about with like reputable sources. And
Right.
why do you think it is so difficult for people to change their minds?
Because they feel they are no, not that they feel they're hardwired, but I feel like there's a precedent there. They either they grew up with these feelings and thoughts and opinions. They were kind of indoctrinated at a young age, and so, that's how they're wired.
Mhm.
They, I don't know, perhaps weren't given the opportunity to learn how to be open-minded, and to explore and to learn and be diverse and learn, different sides and kind of formulate your own opinions. And learning the difference between opinions and facts. What is objective and what is subjective? That's a tough one. And you see that on social media all the
Yes.
time. There's lots of trolling, there's rage bait, there's clickbait. I mean, you can get really sucked into that. I'm not going to lie. I've been sucked into that, and I can see how there's like no way out. So social media has not helped people get out of that mentality.
Yes.
So I mean, unless you're very self-aware and you have if you have the knowledge within yourself to know, hey, maybe this could be an opinion. Let me see if I can, see the other side of things and kind of maybe formulate something new, whether it's an opinion or a fact. But I mean, that's kind of a touchy subject for a lot of people.
I've noticed a lot of times that when people when people are having a difficult time changing their mind or accepting new evidence, it's that their identity is tied to whatever belief that they have.
Right.
And so you're not just you're not just taking down this theory, you are destroying that person's ego at the same time.
You have to be able to separate your emotions and feelings to what the content is. And that I think a lot of that in school, there's a lot of debate teams. I feel like debate teams should be a standard in maybe even like older elementary school grades. I feel like introductions to debate teams should definitely be a more common activity for children. I think that will help them develop better skills in the sense of facts and fiction.
I have noticed, and you don't have to comment necessarily, but the same people that say facts don't care about your feelings have a little asterisk beside it, be like, but they do care about mine though.
Well, yeah, because that statement in and of itself is subjective. That's not an objective statement. So there's some irony there. Speaking as an educator, I'm thinking of that like on a 4 and 5-year-old level, even 2 and 3s. Impulse control is learned when kids are little and they're mad. What do? They throw, they scream. they cry because they don't know how to regulate themselves. They don't have the tools yet or really the brain power to handle what we think they should be doing at that age. They have to do those things. That's what their brain is wired to do. You cannot teach them to think logically, and you can't rationalize with a 2 or 3-year-old. You can't, in your mind, you might be able to think you're doing that, but you're really not. So I'm thinking more on a kid level. And I guess an example would be is my oldest. So she likes her tablet as probably any kid that has a tablet. I don't like her going on it all the time. I don't mind her going on it once in a while or after she's done schoolwork, after she's played and been a human away from a screen. I don't know. That's still kind of like I'm finding my boundaries on screen time.
Oh, yeah.
But, she knows that having a tablet is a privilege. And if, you make a choice that's not good, that privilege is taken away. So you have to earn it back. And so, she can be angry. And her way sometimes is if she's really feeling it in the moment. Normally she handles it pretty well, but she'll be like, well, that's fine. I will just get my tablet tomorrow when I wake up in the morning and I'll go on it. And I'll say, okay, well, what do you think will happen if you do that? Do you think that you'll actually be able to stay on it? Do you think that mommy will give it back to you? And she knows that she's saying that because she's mad and she wants to have some control over the situation. And so I talk it out with her like, well, okay, what would happen if you did that? And then she realizes that, oh, yeah, I'm just saying that because I'm really mad. And I said, it's okay to be mad. You can totally be mad and you can tell me that it's really frustrating you, that I'm taking your tablet away. But when you act out on your emotions and your feelings, that's not the best way to handle them. And so I explain that to her on a more 7-year-old level.
The feeling is okay. The behavior, that's not okay.
Right.
Whatever the behavior.
And so with 2s and 3s, it's more of a let me demonstrate. And even 4s, let me demonstrate the behavior to you. So a lot of my friends, they just, they snatch toys. Someone's playing with it. They don't think about it. So we teach them that. So let's say we'll use Camden. Let's say Camden and I don't know, Peter, they have this car, Peter's playing with it, and Camden just comes over and snatches it. And so then Peter starts crying and chasing Camden around to try to get it back. So we see that and we'll say, oh no, what's the problem? What's going on here? Are we having a problem with the toy? So first is establishing what is going on, what's happening. Sometimes they can articulate that simple, oh, he took the toy from me, or, oh, I want the toy. They have those skills by the time they're about 2.5, 3. They can tell me what's going on. So what will happen is we'll come back to the area and I'll hold on to the toy and let's say Camden, so I'm making him the one that's taking the toy. I say, Camden, I see you wanted to play with the toy because you took it from Peter. Yeah, I want the toy now. I said, okay, well, right now Peter is playing with it. We're going to let him play with it for a couple more minutes and then it will be Camden's turn, but you can't take it from him. So sometimes if I have the time and the bandwidth for it, let's say I give Camden the car and I take it away. I want to play with it. That's not nice. I said, look, now you feel sad. Peter feels sad the same way because you took his car. We can't do that role and do the whole full out. Right. There's 9 other kids in the classroom. Exactly. But we kind of do an expedited version of that. And you just come to Nicole. If you want to play with the car and Peter's saying no or he's not going to share, you tried, then you come to us. Miss Nicole and Miss Meredith will help you. And so that is not expected, oh, they heard this things, now they're going to do it. No, it takes the whole school year.
Right.
It takes the whole school year to learn that skill set. By the end of the year, they have more impulse control and they can ask for the toy. Can I have a turn or can I play with it? Worst thing is the kid says no, or they're very territorial and they, hide it from them. And that's where we come in. We want them to have the confidence to do it themselves.
Mhm.
They have that they are able to do it, and that we're just here to help them, and that really helps them. And so I think really it just starts like so young, just being able to separate logic
Mhm.
from feelings. It just goes down to such a literally an elementary level.
Yeah. Well, and even below it, like a preschool level
Yeah.
even, and that
Yeah.
was kind of what I was gonna touch on is the fact that a lot of people, through no fault of their own, you
Right.
can't learn something that you were never
No,
taught.
you can't. Absolutely. You can't say do this and
Right.
not give them instructions. Like if you told me here's this like complex Lego contraption and it's like, for like 14 plus and it's got 200 pages and they said, "Here, build it." I would say absolutely not. This doesn't look fun. Like I have to start on this step and put all these things together.
Mhm.
No, I need someone to guide me through this. Can you like help me and do this with me?
Yeah.
Like you can't expect a person to just throw everything at them and say, "Here you go. Good luck." It's not how it works. I mean, that
It
happens
would be
though.
great if it were, yeah,
Yeah.
but
But it's everything is learned. Everything is learned. So I think, somewhere, with growing up and you just kind of reach a point in your life where that is just your mindset.
yeah.
And
Yeah, so you actually made a very good point on that. So not only are sometimes beliefs tied to your identity, but also that the skills that are required to be able to like separate, in your own mind, fact and
right,
fiction, start at such a young age
right,
that if you aren't taught that from early on, you
right.
have such a disadvantage the older that you get.
And not everyone is given those opportunity as children to have that environment. And that in of itself is, it's a sad situation to see that where kids knowing that they don't have what they need and you want to give it to them but you can't, that's tough because unfortunately that their upbringing is going to be it's going to be different and potentially harder, and there might be repercussions for that as they grow older, and you just pray and hope that they get the guidance and the love that they need to grow into healthy adults. So I think a lot of that is has a lot to do with your environment too. We are an interfaith family. I'm Jewish. My husband is nothing really,
Mhm.
more like non-denominational, but
Yeah.
obviously he didn't grow up Jewish. He's Filipino, so he
Mhm.
grew up in a Christian
Mhm.
Catholic environment. So, but it's also good that my girls see that his side of the family celebrates
Yeah.
Christmas and Easter. And so I'm glad they're getting those experiences. They're learning that Judaism is not like it's not just religious based.
Mhm.
It's ethnicity, it's your heritage, it's cultural, it's so many other things.
Mhm.
And so just having them have the experiences of going to Sunday school every Sunday and going to services more and just being more involved,
Mhm.
they can kind of make their own, conclusions
Yeah.
and how they feel about everything. But I just want them to know that it's just very important because we're such a minority, that they should not ever feel like
Mhm.
ousted or, put on the back burner because they're Jewish.
Anti-Semitism is one of the like few things that you see both on the right and the left, political wise,
Mhm,
where it could come from anywhere.
mhm.
I can imagine that is tough for you, first of all.
It's tough in many ways. I would say safety would probably
Yeah.
be the most prominent at this point in
Right.
time. Um, we can't go to temple. We have police on site or other security around the clock. If there's Sunday school, we have police officers there. If we have services, there's police officers there. That's just become the norm. When I was growing up in the 90s and I went to Sunday school, those Those weren't a thing. Those
Right.
really weren't a thing. I knew we were a minority, and I thought of anti-Semitism, Holocaust.
Right.
People hated Jews, then this won't happen again.
Mhm.
Well, obviously, that is completely incorrect, because this is like just something new. The same anti-Semitism, but with different circumstances.
Yeah.
Way different circumstances. So safety right now would probably
Right.
be my
Yeah.
priority. I actually took off my Star of David necklace. And I'm very proud of it, but I'm
Right.
also very insecure in a way. There's just, you don't know who people are. Passerbys, people that you just see every day, they're nice. They're strangers though. You don't know what their belief systems are.
People have a hard time separating the actions of a government versus the people that are, of the nationality.
Right. Labels that I have been called, not directly, but kind of like collectively.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I try not to engage on social media because I just that's just, I have my actual life to be attentive to, but it's hard not to see that. So I've definitely limited what my time on social media and just kind of what is it? Like just scrolling.
The doom scrolling.
Yeah, doom scrolling and things like you see. But when big world events are happening, that's how I kind of get what's going on in the world. Not to form my own opinion, just, okay, this is happening. This is the reaction the world is having. That kind of gets me to where we are. And then I kind of figure things out in my own head by actually reading news articles or things of that. But I try not to use memes and just reels. It's more so Instagram that can be toxic, kind of just it's just a spineless back. People are just spewing things and they don't know what they're saying. It's hard to say when. Okay, it started at this point, but definitely thousands of years ago. There's a thing with Jews with every holidays. We came, we fought, we conquered, now let's eat. That's what it comes down to. But the kind of the gist of it is that the Jews are living somewhere, and whether it be a Persian army, a Greek army, a Roman army, they want us to bow down to their idols. The Jews say no. They say, okay, well, we're going to start a war with you. The Jews defend themselves, and they conquer the army and say, we're going to be Jews. You can't force us to bow down to your idols or statues, things like that. And we're going to rebuild from there. We're going to become more resilient and more resolute. Look, we made it. Let's celebrate, and we need food.
I'm kind of fascinated about for a while, and that's the idea of the pursuit of happiness.
Okay.
What does the pursuit of happiness mean to you?
Being happy with what you have and not what you don't have. I think, everything is very materialized, and I think growing up in the late 80s and early 90s was the start of everything being materialized, and just wanting more and more, and TV coming out and internet coming out and more different types of toys. You just kind of, in a way, almost, there was always something to entertain you. We knew how to be bored because we didn't have the internet until we were later. So it was we kind of had the best of both worlds of knowing how to function without technology. But then when it came, it was okay, we have this now. What can we do with it with our time? And not having the latest gadget, things of that. I think that really plays a role in happiness, is people aren't happy with what they have in front of them. And there's no amount of tangible objects that can give you happiness. You can be rich and be the saddest man alive? And that's like it's a common question. Would
Looking
you
at
rather
you,
be
Elon Musk.
happy, right, happy and poor, or would you rather be rich and sad? And then you say, I'd be rich and happy. Well, that wasn't one of the choices.
Right.
That wasn't one of the choices. If you can be rich, not in the sense of money, you can be rich with love, rich with warmth, rich with companionship. If you are rich with those things, then being rich with money is just a bonus.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, if you're financially stable, you're just, you kind of reached a comfort level with your finances, but you don't have anything else to go with that. Well, I think then it's time to reanalyze, why is that? Why am I here? What happened to where I have all these things, but I'm still not happy? Because you have the wrong things.
I think it's very interesting. Kind of what you're showing is the gradual shift between 1980s Gordon Gekko, greed is good. And it was about consumerism, keeping up with the Joneses. And as we've kind of moved past there is much less of a focus on tangible things.
Right.
And it's not about keeping up with the Joneses or anything. It's more about what you have inside.
Yeah, keeping up with your own self and your own family and what your values are. And I think a lot of people maybe don't have values, or their values perhaps are not where they should be if they're unhappy, because maybe their values are with just having the latest gadgets. And that's what's that fleeting happiness. It's like kids. It's like, you say yes to them. They're happy in their moment. And then what happens? They're sick of it. They want something else. It's that instant gratification. Once you set that tone, you cannot take it back, because then they're going to expect it. That's like my 7-year-old, she finds it so cool that coffee is an adult drink. So she always asks, and same with soda, can I have a sip? Can I have a sip? She doesn't know why. I've explained to her, caffeine gives you energy. When you're an adult, you don't have the same natural energy as a child does. You don't need it because you have a lot of energy. But knowing that it's not for her, she wants it. So finally at 7, I let her have a sip of it. It was like mostly milk with like a little bit of caffeine left and some creamer with it. So it was such a negligible amount. Nothing would happen. But I set a precedent now that she's tried it. Every time I have coffee, can I have a sip? Can I have a sip? And she did it this morning. I said, I'm sorry. No, I said, it's not that I don't want to give it to you, but if I keep giving it to you, you're just going to expect it every time. So no, you may not have my coffee. You got to try it. That was it. And so I'm very firm with that. Same with soda. She unfortunately had soda for the first time when she was 6. And I know eventually everyone's, you can only shield your child from so much. They're eventually going to be exposed to things. But you just do your best to kind of like prolong that as much as possible. Well, someone gave her Diet Coke at a carnival. Without me knowing. And that it's fine. At first I was a little frustrated with it. They're like, you know what? It's happened. No big deal. She's very happy with herself that she got something that she wasn't supposed to have.
I think I got more angry than you did. I was fired up there for a second.
I was like, okay, you tried it. No big deal. I'm not going to make a big scene about it. I said, okay, well, just consider yourself lucky. Not everyone gets to try soda when they're 6 without their parents' consent. So I said, what did you think of it? She said she liked it. I said, okay, well, I'm glad you liked it, but there's nothing in soda that is good for your body. There are no nutrients. It doesn't help you grow stronger. It doesn't make your brain smarter. I just keep it very simple. There's nothing in it. It doesn't make make you have good eyesight. I always tell her, like, when she eats carrots, it helps your vision, because it does. And I try to take a pinpoint of food and what its benefit is from it. So I said, it's sweet and it makes you happy, but it doesn't help you in any way. It's actually, it's detrimental if you are a regular, Coke drinker or any soda drinker. And I'm guilty as charged. Like, totally, I love sodas.
Yeah.
But as a parent, I'm trying, like, not to have that present, because it's like, do as I say, not as I do type thing.
Right. I hate that. mentality.
Oh, yeah. And we're all guilty of it to an
Yeah.
extent. Like, sorry, kid, you can't have soda, but I actually do have a ginger ale in the refrigerator. But
I feel so icky every time I'm like that.
At the same time, she has to understand that I am an adult. When she is an adult, if she decides that she would like to have a soda every now and then that is her choice. But she can't tell me what to do.
Mhm.
Like, if I'm drinking a soda, like, she'll say, well, that's not good for you. I know, but it's my choice to drink it. When you are a grown up and your brain is fully developed and you want to try a soda, then you can do it then. But right now you're a child and you're still growing. So you don't know if that's a good choice for you. And that's why I'm your mommy, to help guide you along.
Yeah.
So she's like, she gets it. She totally gets it, but she still wants it. Like,
Right.
The logic is there, but she doesn't care. She still wants it. So I let her have like a sip of Sprite or Coke that I had or something. We were at a birthday party or at a restaurant. I'm not really sure, but we were in public. So I'm like, sure, why not? I'm not going to be like a sourpuss and not just say no every time. Well, again, oh, okay. So every time I'm going to see if I can get a sip of it. Sorry, you're not going to get a sip. I'm sorry, not this time. Maybe next time. Maybe next time. Not today. No, sorry. So, but, there's this small sliver of hope that, I don't know until I ask. So, okay. She's not disappointed. She just, okay, now that I know that I asked and the answer is no, I can move on with my life. So.
It's amazing how emotionally resilient kids are.
Yeah, or not.
Yeah. Nicole, thank you so much for acting out with me. This has been an absolute blast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great.